Isn't that right, Senator Daniel Sparks, who joins us this morning
That's
in
correct.
studio? Always thankful for the time. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you. I tried to make sure I match shirts with you there. I've got my Sanderson Farms shirt on. Looks like you're sporting
Your
your
Reveal,
today.
Revel
So-
or Reveal, whatever his name is. I love that little logo.
Talking about the chicken?
Yeah, the chicken. Let me
Oh,
see.
the
if I
chicken's
can,
a great
Yeah,
logo.
there we go.
I would say that in all of sports, the Sanderson Farms Championship has had the best trophy.
Yes. You
You just
without
put that
question.
big old rooster trophy on the mantle. Bronze thing, weighs a bunch. Is it Reveille? Is that the name?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Revel or Reveille or
Yeah.
Reveal, yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Daniel Sparks represents parts of Itawamba, Prentiss, and Tishomingo counties. He's chair of the Economic and Workforce Development Committees, vice chair of Judiciary B. How's your summer?
It's good. I can't complain. Just trying to work and juggle, and like a lot of people in Mississippi, trying to keep the yard grass cut just because of the rain that we've had. But it's been good. Doing a few conferences. Was in Chicago a couple weeks ago. Have some things coming up on the Gulf Coast. Trying to get out and get educated a little bit, understand. Speaking to some groups. I've talked to several on PERS. We had our PERS board of trustees meetings the last 2 days. That's every other month. We meet a couple times and trying to make sure that we get implemented the new legislation and get stability to the system and make sure that we're honoring the obligations to the people that are working today and those that will be retiring tomorrow.
Yeah, so, I mean, I feel like that's probably where we need to spend a little bit of time. PERS was talked about a lot this past session. It's going to continue to be talked about, but I think we've got two different conversations, right? The changes to the system that go in effect in 5 days, right? July 1st, just around the corner, and those are going to affect new hires. But then also the liability of PERS in the years down the road, which is not so different than the conversation that we got about Social Security at the national level that says, 2034 is the last year they're going to be able to pay out Social Security. So, I hope you're saving money on your own as well. That's probably not a bad plan. In terms of the changes that go into effect, what do people need to be reminded of?
Well, the first thing is nothing changes for Tier 1 through 4. That's something from time to time I think people are...
Which means if you're in the system today.
Yes.
Okay.
It's your benefits, that's your service credit, leave, whatever rights, privileges that you have, you retain, and that was very important, I believe, everyone in the legislature, is again to honor that commitment. Tier 5, we have a couple things. There are some
How many times, by the way, did you have to say that during the legislative session when the PERS process was going on? This is about the future. It's not about the past. Nothing changes if you're in it, and have people not hear you, listen to you, understand.
It is very concerning because, I said it numerous times, couldn't name it, but still I'll have people walk up to me and they'll say, well, so this changes on this issue. I'm like, no, it does not change. And we had a pretty, hearty dialogue yesterday about making sure there's not misrepresentation. There's some folks that don't care for Tier 5. They don't care for the changes. They didn't want anything to change, even though we were $26.5 billion underfunded. And, I just don't want them to misrepresent what it actually does. What we do see is July 1, there are some things that change with ORP. March 1st of 2026 is actually the Tier 5 for folks that are in the PERS side of the equation. When they come in and they'll have the hybrid style, part defined benefit, part defined contribution. But the key thing is we're going to honor those obligations. And we've also put $110 million a session ago, not this past session. And, I understand the speaker has put together a working group or a committee to look at PERS funding. The lieutenant governor had offered 3 or 4 different types of cash infusions. I personally want to see a large cash infusion because if we put, just say 500.
What's large?
To me, it's $500 million. I think if you put $500 million in, And I had an amendment ready to go during the special session, but then I tried to honor the agreement that had been made between the House and the Senate and the governor that all three parties had reviewed all of the budgets and they had come to an agreement, so we weren't going to change anything. So I held on that. But the reason I say that is because that money put into PERS would generate 7% as their anticipated rate of return. Which that's $35 million. Then that would grow exponentially as you move through the years. That and some other reforms we've done, we'll see $100 million.
Can I interrupt you for
Sure.
an accounting question? You know, if you borrow money, you have principal and interest, and you have a monthly payment that is due, and that goes to a combination of the two. But you can always, or at least on most loans, you can make a principal payment. Like you're paying your monthly mortgage, and you're like, hey, I've got an extra, I don't know, $10,000 that you won from the lottery, and you want to throw that toward the principal. If you put $500 million toward the PERS liability, can that go to the principal versus the interest, or does that question even make sense? Is there a difference?
It's a very good question. It's different in the sense that an unfunded actuarial liability is a created future liability. These are streams of payments in the future. So it's not like debt that the federal government has or debt like you and I would understand with a mortgage, but it's the same principle when the actuaries calculate what they think we should be putting toward the system. So it does matter, but the big thing for me is we're talking about streams of revenue, and I'm all for looking for streams of revenue. I don't like diverting. I didn't like diverting from MDOT, which was the lottery funds, $80 million and $20 million from educational enhancement funds. That was an HB1. I didn't agree with that piece, so we didn't go that route. But certainly we needed reform, and we need dollars. And the source of those dollars, if you've got CapEx money that you can put into it, that's beneficial because that's done today. But then you go back to the compounding interest side, that growth year over year is amazing what you would see. And that's why it's so sad no one put money in it.
With that $500 million, I mean, using your number, if you took that $500 million and set it aside, that would be for investment purposes, right?
That's correct.
You theoretically should mirror them. And I don't know if it's as simple as index funds or whatever, but I mean, that rule of eights, I guess it is, where that money doubles every 8 years. I mean, that goes from 500 to $1 billion to 2 to 4 over the course of kind of this liability period that we've talked about.
And it makes a serious dent. And one of the things yesterday, 7% is the anticipated rate of return, which also impacts how the liability is calculated and how much money they're asking for. And it was either 9.34 or 9.84 is the fiscal year to date through like June 23. So it appears, unless we have a terrible event in the market in the next week, that we're going to exceed the anticipated rate of return by 2 points or greater. So that is tremendous.
What did you say one more time that anticipated return was?
It's 7. That's what the actuaries have chosen, and that's what the board has adopted. But we've historically had 8.13 over 30 years. And we're going to be over 9 this year, it appears. So, I'm very proud of that and excited about that, because when you have $35 billion under management, making an extra 2 points matters. So.
And I think what you just said is important for people to hear also, because it's a future liability that we're talking about, but there's $35 billion there to pay out what is currently owed on a month-to-month basis.
That's correct. Yeah, the checks are coming, I can assure you.
Yeah. And for a long time. Like, even if you didn't put in another penny, this money lasts for a while, and there is money that's coming in every month.
Well, it's the obligation. We owe it, and we intend to pay it.
Yeah. Daniel Sparks is a state senator. He's with us in studio this morning, hitting a bunch of different topics with him. We'll continue that coming up next. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for being with us. I like a little Toto on a Thursday morning. It means the weekend's just around the corner. Senator Daniel Sparks joining me in studio, represents District 5, Itawamba, Prentiss, Tishomingo Counties, Chair of Economic Development and Workforce Committees, and Vice Chair of Judd B as well. On that economic development front, I mean, you talk about a busy time over the last 6 months, year and a half, with the things that are coming into the state of Mississippi at such an incredibly rapid pace, partnerships that are happening between universities and military installations. We talked this morning about the one between Mississippi State and Keesler on the meteorology front. It's just kind of coming fast and furious, almost to the point that it's hard to keep up with.
Yes, I am very excited. It's a great time to be chair of economic workforce development. I will say the work that was done, before I got to the Mississippi legislature is what set a lot of this up. Mm-hmm. I'll be going, my companion over in the House is Donnie Bales, the chair of economic workforce development. We'll be speaking at the MEDC conference in July. That's your site development grant group through MDA. We've invested money in these sites. Bill Cork and the team at MDA, Governor Reeves, et cetera, we have these announcements. But the work that they do, they've, particularly Bill and his team, been all over the globe in the last, couple of weeks. Mississippi is certainly open for business. It has a great tax regulatory environment, cost of living, the education system. We're working together better, I think, with our college and universities and community colleges with understanding what we need in the state of Mississippi, not just to train our own people, but to recruit people to work in the state of Mississippi. And a lot of that goes back to the creation of Accelerate, Dr. Courtney Taylor and her team over there being the coach, if you will, of workforce, because there's so many different pots of money that we look at to train people, some from the federal government, some from the state. And she was up in D.C. recently. There's new legislation relating to the WIOA funds, the Workforce Initiative funds, our Workforce Enhancement Training funds. And I just really do believe, and I really do give the governor a lot of credit, is that they have put this together in a manner that the wins keep coming. It's not, hey, we worked really hard for 2 years. We made this huge economic development announcement. The hits just keep coming. People are expanding and growing. And one of the key points of that is energy. We have available energy in this state. That was a key driver in recruiting AWS and some of these other individuals. And I think that's something to go back to what you were talking about earlier before I came on the air, is, having energy independence in this country is so valuable, because I remember in 1979, 1980, when we were having the issues with Iran, how that, the administration at that time, had a completely different attitude of, well, let's just turn the thermostat down and put the sweater on. And from the conservative and the Republican side, they have been able to lead the United States towards energy independence so that we don't see this huge spike in gas prices just because there's something going on in the Middle East. And it's always to the point when, Iran threatened to close the Strait of Hormuz, it wasn't the United States saying, oh, no, our prices will go up. It was China, calling and saying, let's not do that. So I think we're in such a better position globally, and that trickles down to the states that are willing to embrace that, because we have states that are not embracing energy independence. We have states that are not embracing growth of businesses, and that's Mississippi's benefit. So, we've prepared. They've done the foundational groundwork. They continue to be good communicators. And again, working with the folks at the economic development side of the coin, it's exciting right now in Mississippi.
Let me ask you this, and this is a question that we regularly get. We hear from people in Southwest Mississippi, and we sometimes hear from the Mississippi Delta. In fact, Robert Johnson was on with me earlier this week, and he was talking about the fact that money is not distributed equally among counties in Mississippi and how much certain money would mean for other. On the economic development and economic projects front, we've seen a lot of these projects in a lot of different places. We haven't seen a bunch of them in Southwest Mississippi or the Mississippi Delta. Is that a function? Maybe I should just say, what is that a function of? And the secondary part of this is I know there are resources that are available for workforce development in those parts of the state. Is there a willingness within the workforce in that part of the state?
First of all, yes, I think there is a willingness with the workforce in that part of the state, and I did listen to the interview, and I thought it was very interesting. Your question back was, the congressional delegation. Of course, he pivoted to bigger bills, but you were asking a specific question. is how is the congressional delegation, particularly when you had Democratic control, you had Democratic president, that there's not huge announcements during that period of time. So I think that, there's great concern of what goes on west of 55. And Representative Johnson and I have talked about this. I actually held a meeting last year in Cleveland when we were dealing with our workforce participation study committee. And we had these discussions. There are people that are in the Delta region that are riding a bus 2 hours to go to Memphis to work at FedEx, or to, even come into maybe to Canton to work at Nissan. Yeah. And we need those development opportunities, but you need willing partners in local government. We just had municipal elections. And I tell you, speaking to all the folks across the state of Mississippi that are representing these municipalities, it is a partnership with the state, with the federal, with the county officials, and the more difficulties you have functioning as a team, the harder it is to recruit business, because business doesn't want to come in and hear, well, the city agrees, but the county doesn't, or the state's not working with the city. We don't get along. I'm excited.
And that's not unique to Delta County. That's all over the state of Mississippi.
100%. And so, a business does not want to hear that. They want to hear that people are on the same sheet of music. I'm excited. My colleague, Senator Horn, going to be sworn in as the mayor of Jackson. We have some partners that we can work with, and that is a focus for me. I do believe it's a focus for MDA and the site development team, and those discussions, certainly have been had. One of the things with AWS, there was serious investment as it relates to some of the counties in that region that will see ad valorem tax increases without the need of a trained or trainable workforce in that scenario. The other thing is we have a great need for construction trades, for skilled labor in electricity, in plumbing, things of that magnitude, because when AWS came in, we had to hire people from out of state to come do that work.
Right.
So that's one of the key focuses that we have right now is what can we do to train our Mississippians? And if we have a region in that particular area, for example, that we're not having a lot of new business locate, can we train the people in that region to make a wonderful living? Because, you have those skill sets. You can travel. There are companies that you just like a traveling nurse. It's almost like a traveling electrician, a traveling plumber. So we are really focused on that and trying to be a good partner with them. But yes, that is heard. That is something that I think is important. And one of the things that we're working on this summer is a one-door policy, which we passed a bill to address that. Again, it's something that the federal government would give the state of Mississippi. Louisiana is looking for that, opportunity to do it as well, is where when people come in, and I have a meeting later today on this, when people come into the state to ask for assistance, that we open them up to all the opportunities that are there for them. So if someone comes in seeking, SNAP benefits, is that all we're going to do is just take your information and see, do you qualify for SNAP? Or are we going to try to, as a state, because you're asking the state or the federal government to fund part of your life, is to say, is there a way that we can get you to economic independence? What is your educational situation? What barriers are there for you? Can we get you an adult ed program?
But that's a two-part process, right?
Yes,
there has to be an interest in, because there's some people that are like, yeah, I just want my check, or I just want the benefits, leave me alone. I'm content living this way, while there are others who genuinely want that. Like, they would prefer not to have to go to the unemployment office or to a SNAP benefits office if there was a route to economic independence, as you described it.
That's correct, and that's one of the reasons we need a one-door style policy, or at least that data and technology, because if you tell me I just want my check and I don't want to do anything else, we need to know that, because, now I have somebody who's saying my constituents can't get any help. And if I'm saying, right, here's the data, we literally offered adult ed, we offered this. And in today's world and technology with AI and the other things that are coming in, I think we can do a better job directing services so that we spend less money as a state, but we spend it more effectively. And the thing that I just repeatedly say to our colleges, to our, K-12, whoever it may be, it's return on investment, it's ROI. We don't want people just to have a job. We want them to have a good job. And to do that, we need to be able to train them, and we do need interest on both sides. You're correct.
Yeah. We'll finish up with Daniel Sparks, Senator from District 5 on the other side of this. Going to hit on community colleges just for a second. That is an area that is passionate to him. It's also an area that Lieutenant Governor has said he is going to place a significant amount of emphasis going into next year's session with that last dollar program. Talk a little bit more about that when we come back. Mornings with Richard Cross, wrapping up the 7 o'clock hour next with you on SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm sensing a theme in the music, Lance.
I have I'm getting prepared for my trip to the Straits of
Persian
Hormuz.
Gulf vacation.
Exactly. Got Toto, and then walk like an Egyptian from the Bengals.
Yeah. Quickly, as we rejoin Daniel Sparks one last time, during the breaks, I've been watching some of this Pete Hegseth and General Kane press conference, and General Kane was just outlining. So Monday, and we know that Iran kind of gave us a heads up that the strikes were coming, which was certainly helpful, but they had abandoned the Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, except for 22 soldiers. We had 22 personnel members still on that base. That's Forward CENTCOM Command in the Middle East. And they had only 2 of the Patriot battery missile defense systems. Said the oldest soldier on base was 28 and the youngest was 21. There were 22 of them in total left to defend the entire base. And they crushed it. They knocked all those missiles out of the sky.
It's amazing what they can do, and there's just not the words to express the appreciation. And we don't always understand certainly what they and their families go through, but they are the reason that the United States has the standing in the world it does with its military, and it allows the negotiations and it allows the talkers to talk because they do the walk. So it matters. And
Senator Sparks, I said something earlier this week that I feel like has not been talked about enough. The reputation of the United States military has taken a beating over the last few years, and I felt like this was an opportunity for our military to kind of stand back and look in the mirror and flex a little bit, and not only remind the rest of the world that we're still on top, but maybe remind ourselves that we are.
Well, I go back to '79 again. We had the failed mission to try to rescue the hostages. It looked really bad from a military standpoint as far as how we were viewed. We were telling people we just couldn't do anything about energy. We couldn't do anything about inflation. I mean, it was hope was gone, and that's why I think the Reagan administration, as it's remembered now 40 some odd years later, is no administration is perfect. It was a dawn of a new day. There was hope in America, and that's what we're so thankful when we have leadership like that in the military. Is again, they allow us to sit back and say, man, it's an awesome time to to be proud of them and the work that they do. Absolutely.
All right, I said we talk about community colleges just for a minute. The lieutenant governor has talked about trying to reintroduce that last dollar bill next year that will make sure that after all of the other financial aid options are exhausted, the state will pay for the remainder of community college for Mississippi residents that want to go that route. Your colleagues, do you sense support for this legislation? Obviously, it didn't end up going through this year.
Well, I mean, I certainly, like to see the opportunity where Mississippians are getting educated, particularly at our community colleges. I attended Northeast Mississippi Community College. I represent the home campuses of Northeast and ICC. Mm-hmm. It's very important on the economic development front.
Is that hard? Because there's a rivalry there.
Oh, it's very hard. There's a great story one day about I might have gotten thrown out of the football game at Etowamba when I was playing with Northeast, but story for another day.
Okay.
But the reality of it is, I go back to ROI, like I said earlier. I don't want education for education's sake anymore. We went through this with our universities for a long time, and if I dangle something out and just say it's free, come have some of it. Our community colleges are skilled educational institutions. This needs to be targeted. It needs to be for people, again, willing participant. As you said earlier, there are programs that we're put in place, again, talking with Accelerate recently. There's a $2 million investment going into Northeast that's training equipment. We're trying to put the right equipment in front of people. We're raising their earning capacity. Northrop Grumman, speaking of defense, in my district is one of the largest employers in Northeast, has a great working relationship there. They're hiring people right now. I shared something this week. They're having a hiring fair. And the thing about our community colleges, too, they're educating people who probably stay in the state of Mississippi. So I'm a strong proponent and advocate of our community colleges. But I can also tell you this, at ICC and at Northeast for years now, last dollar tuition, there's been no tuition because partnerships with business, with industry, our county boards of supervisors, they have put up the money to be that last dollar. So I want to be cautious when we start talking about last dollar. If I say we're going to pay the last dollar,
is there actually a need for it?
Well, it's not the need. Does the price go up? Because if I promise you I'll just pay for the last dollar, what happens is the dollars get bigger and bigger. So, we do need to be conscientious of that. I understand and I agree with what the Lieutenant Governor is pursuing, and that's to help Mississippians get education beyond K-12 that raises their earning capacity. Mm-hmm. But again, working together with our career coaches, targeting it, I want the ROI. I want us to be efficient. I want us to be accountable, and we're spending taxpayer dollars. Let's make sure we're getting the right result.
One of the great things right now in Mississippi, as we run out of time, is that if you are graduating high school or you are graduating from a community college or you are graduating from college, there are jobs available, and not just like entry-level, barely getting by salary jobs. There are good jobs available right now, right here in the state of Mississippi. Senator Daniel Sparks, thanks as always for your time.
Thank you so much for having me, Richard.
Mornings with Richard Cross, 8 o'clock hour. Coming up next, we'll start things off with Baxter Kruger, Director of the Office of Homeland Security, right here in Mississippi.